I haven't had sex in 8 months, the desperate woman declared to the virgin rancher, her words cutting through the thunderstorm like lightning across the Texas plains as she collapsed against his cabin door. The townspeople mock him mercilessly, the soft-spoken boy who talks to cattle like children, destined to lose his father's ranch within weeks. They whisper he'll die alone, broke, and forgotten. But this mysterious woman in black carries secrets that could either save his failing legacy or destroy them both. She's a fugitive with dangerous knowledge, hunted by corrupt lawmen who will kill anyone harboring her. Yet her skills might be the only thing standing between him and financial ruin. Two desperate souls collide in the storm. Will they lift each other from the darkness or drag each other into destruction? Before we continue, comment where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will publish a story there. The cattle scattered like leaves in a windstorm. Samuel Whitaker stumbled through the mud, his boots slipping as the last of his livestock disappeared into the Texas brush. The buyers mounted their horses without a backward glance. 24 years old and can't wrangle a single steer, one muttered loud enough for Sam to hear. Boy's softer than church butter. Sam stood alone in his father's pasture, watching dust clouds mark his humiliation. The banknote crumpled in his pocket felt heavier than iron. $500, 2 weeks to pay or lose everything. In town, the whispers followed him like shadows. The virgin rancher, they called him. Too gentle for cattle, too weak for women, too foolish to survive another season alone. Emma Landry offered him coffee at her inn, her weathered hands steady as she poured. She was the only soul in Dusty Creek who looked at him without pity or mockery. Your father would be proud, she said quietly. You treat those animals with kindness. That counts for something. Sam nodded, but doubt gnawed at his chest. Kindness wouldn't pay debts. Gentleness wouldn't save the ranch. Back home, he discovered 3 cattle stumbling near the water trough. Their eyes were clouded, their breathing labored. Disease. Sam's heart sank deeper than a stone in a well. If it spread to the whole herd, he'd lose more than money. He'd lose hope. Thunder rolled across the evening sky like God's own artillery. Sam worked by lamplight in the barn, checking each sick animal, whispering useless comfort to creatures that couldn't understand his desperation. Rain hammered the roof in sheets. A fist pounded against his cabin door. Sam hesitated. No decent person traveled in weather like this. Lightning illuminated the windows in stark flashes. The pounding came again, more urgent. He opened the door to find a woman collapsed against the frame. Her black dress clung to her like a second skin, soaked through and torn at the hem. Dark hair plastered to her skull. Eyes wild with exhaustion and something deeper. Fear, maybe, or fury. She looked up at him with the intensity of a cornered animal. I haven't had sex in 8 months, she gasped, her voice raw from the storm. And I need your help. Sam's face burned crimson. He'd never heard a woman speak such words, never heard anyone speak such words to him. His tongue felt thick as cotton. Ma'am, I don't know what you mean by... She pushed past him into the cabin, water dripping from her clothes onto his mother's old rug. Her gaze swept the room, cataloging exits and hiding places with practiced efficiency. You're Sam Whitaker, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, ma'am, but I don't know who you are or what you want. She turned to face him fully. Even exhausted and drenched, she carried herself with the bearing of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Her skin was darker than his, marking her as one of the freed people who'd migrated west after the war. But her dress, though torn, was fine fabric. Her speech carried education. My name is Alicia Monroe. I was married to a lawman who turned out to be something else entirely. Something evil. Sam's confusion deepened. Ma'am, if you're in some kind of trouble? Sheriff Jed Morrison of Brazos County. Do you know that name? Sam shook his head. He rarely traveled beyond Dusty Creek's borders. He's hunting me. Has been for months. I discovered things about him that could destroy his reputation and his freedom. When I tried to leave, he declared me dead to the law and put bounties on my head. Lightning crackled outside, casting her face in sharp relief. Sam saw intelligence in her eyes and determination that reminded him of his father's prize mare, unbroken despite every attempt to tame her. "I can offer you something in exchange for shelter," she continued. "Those cattle of yours, the sick ones in your barn, I know what's wrong with them." Sam's breath caught. "You're a veterinarian?" Among other things. Her smile held secrets. "I can save your animals, Mr. Whitaker. Probably save your ranch too. But it has to be our secret." The rational part of Sam's mind screamed warnings. Harboring a fugitive could mean prison or worse. Morrison's reputation might reach even here. But the desperate part, the part that had watched his life crumble piece by piece, whispered different counsel. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Partnership. I help you succeed. You help me disappear." Rain drummed against the windows like impatient fingers. Sam studied this strange woman who'd arrived like an answer to prayers he'd been too proud to voice. Her offer seemed impossible, too convenient, too dangerous. But his cattle were dying. His debts were mounting. In 2 weeks, strangers would auction off his father's legacy from the courthouse steps. "If Morrison finds you here, he'll find you too." Her voice carried no apology, only truth. "I won't lie about the risk, Mr. Whitaker, but I'm offering you a chance to save everything you're about to lose." Thunder shook the cabin walls. Through the storm's chaos, Sam heard something else. The labored breathing of sick cattle in his barn, the ticking of his father's clock, marking time until foreclosure. He looked at Alicia Monroe, this mysterious woman whose arrival had split his world into before and after. Her presence promised salvation or destruction, with no middle ground between them. Sam stared at Alicia Monroe through the lamplight, rain still drumming against his cabin walls. Her offer hung between them like smoke from a dying fire. "You said you know what's wrong with my cattle," he said finally. "Respiratory infection, probably started with contaminated feed or water. Without proper treatment, you'll lose half your herd within a week." Sam's jaw tightened. "And you can cure them how exactly?" Alicia moved to his window, peering through the darkness toward the barn. "Because I'm not just a runaway wife, Mr. Whitaker. I'm a doctor." The words hit Sam like cold water. "That's impossible." "Is it?" She turned back to face him. "Or is it just unlikely?" Sam had never met a female doctor, hadn't known such creatures existed outside of tall tales and newspaper stories from back east. "I was educated in Boston," Alicia continued. "Studied medicine at a private academy before the war. Married Morrison because I thought he was an honorable man fighting for justice. But you said he's hunting you. Because I discovered what he really is." Her voice hardened like iron cooling in winter air. "Jed Morrison uses his badge to terrorize freed slaves and their sympathizers. He files false charges, seizes their land, then sells it to his associates for profit." Sam felt the ground shifting beneath his understanding. "You have proof?" "Enough to destroy him and his entire network. That's why he wants me silenced permanently." Lightning illuminated the cabin in stark white. Sam saw the truth written in her posture, the way she held her shoulders like someone carrying invisible weight. "When I tried to confront him about the corruption, he flew into a rage, said he'd rather see me dead than disgraced. I barely escaped with my life." Sam's mind raced through implications. Harboring a fugitive meant risking everything, but losing his cattle meant losing everything anyway. "What exactly are you proposing?" "I treat your animals using real medical knowledge. You provide me sanctuary while I figure out how to expose Morrison safely." She stepped closer. "We both get what we need to survive. And if someone discovers you're here, then we face the consequences together." The honesty in her voice struck him deeper than any promise. Sam had spent months drowning in isolation, watching his world collapse piece by piece. Now this stranger offered partnership in the darkness. "Show me," he said. They moved through the storm to the barn, Alicia's wet dress clinging to her frame as she examined his sick cattle. She worked with the confidence of someone who'd done this countless times before. "Pneumonia," she diagnosed, pressing her ear to the first cow's chest. "Advanced, but treatable." With what medicine? Herbs and compounds I can make from common plants. The trick is knowing the right combinations and dosages. Sam watched her move between the animals, her hands gentle but sure. She spoke to them in soft tones while checking their breathing and temperature. Her methods reminded him of his father's approach to injured horses. Where did you learn to treat animals? Same principles as treating people. During the war, I helped operate a safe house for escaped slaves traveling north. Doctored wounds, delivered babies, treated fevers. You learn to work with whatever's available. She straightened from examining the third cow. These animals will recover fully with proper care, but I'll need supplies from town. That's risky. People might ask questions. Then we'll have to be clever about it. Over the next 3 days, Sam made careful trips to the general store and apothecary, purchasing herbs and tonics under the guise of folk remedies his grandmother supposedly used. Emma Landry helped without asking too many questions, though her knowing looks suggested she suspected something unusual. Alicia worked like a woman possessed, mixing compounds by lamplight and administering treatments every few hours. She disguised her medical knowledge as traditional healing wisdom passed down through generations. My grandmother always said willow bark tea helped with breathing troubles, she'd say if Sam questioned her methods. The cattle responded faster than Sam had dared hope. Their breathing cleared, their eyes brightened. Within a week, they were grazing normally again. Word spread through Dusty Creek about Sam's miraculous recovery of his herd. Buyers who'd previously dismissed him now sought him out, offering fair prices for healthy livestock. Don't know what you did, boy, one grizzled rancher admitted. But those animals look better than they have in years. Sam's confidence grew with each successful sale. For the first time since his father's death, he felt capable of running the ranch properly. But Alicia's presence created complications neither had anticipated. She stayed hidden in his cabin during daylight hours, emerging only at night to tend the animals. The isolation wore on both of them. They began talking during evening treatments, sharing stories about their pasts. Sam learned about her childhood in a household that valued education above convention. Alicia discovered his genuine love for the land his father had worked. "You're not like other ranchers," she observed one night as they checked the cattle. "How so?" "You see these animals as individuals. Most men see them as property. My father taught me that everything on this land deserves respect." Smart man. Their partnership deepened into something approaching friendship. Sam found himself looking forward to their conversations, while Alicia seemed to relax in his presence. But danger lurked beyond their temporary peace. Wanted posters bearing Morrison's seal appeared in neighboring towns. The sheriff was expanding his search, methodically checking every settlement where a fugitive might seek shelter. Time was running short, and their fragile arrangement balanced on a knife's edge between salvation and destruction. Sam's transformation astonished even himself. 3 weeks after Alicia's arrival, cattle buyers competed for his business. The same men who'd mocked him now studied his healthy livestock with grudging respect. "Whatever you're feeding these animals, keep doing it," declared Tom Bradley, the territory's largest cattle dealer. He handed Sam payment that covered the bank debt twice over. But success brought scrutiny. Townspeople whispered about the virgin rancher's sudden expertise. How did a failing boy become a master cattleman overnight? "Heard he's got some kind of secret method," gossiped Mrs. Henderson at the general store. "Mighty suspicious, if you ask me." Sam deflected questions with careful words about his grandmother's old remedies and his father's forgotten techniques. The lies came easier each day, though they sat heavy on his conscience. Alicia worked her medical miracles from the shadows. She'd transformed his root cellar into a makeshift laboratory, mixing compounds and preparing treatments by candlelight. Her knowledge seemed boundless. "Where exactly did you learn all this?" Sam asked one evening as she prepared medicine for a neighbor's sick horse. "Boston Female Medical College before the war. Then 8 years of practical experience during the conflict." Her hands never paused in their work. "You learn fast when lives depend on your decisions." She told him about the Underground Railroad safe house she'd helped operate. Wounded travelers arriving in the dead of night, some barely clinging to life, Children burning with fever, mothers giving birth in hiding. Every person I saved was someone's entire world, she said. That responsibility changes you. Sam understood that weight now. His cattle depended on him. His ranch workers' families depended on his success. The burden felt lighter when shared with someone who comprehended its magnitude. Their evening conversations became the highlight of his days. Alicia possessed an education that dwarfed his own, yet she never made him feel ignorant. Instead, she drew out his natural intelligence about animal behavior and land management. You read cattle better than most people read books, she observed, after watching him identify a sick calf before any symptoms appeared. That's a rare gift. My father always said animals tell you everything if you know how to listen. He was right. Medical school taught me anatomy and chemistry, but experience taught me to observe. You were born with that skill. Sam felt pride swell in his chest. For years, townspeople had mocked his gentle approach to ranching. Now he understood it was his greatest strength. But their partnership faced growing dangers. Emma Landry visited more frequently, her sharp eyes noting details others missed. The mysterious woman who never appeared in daylight. The sudden improvement in Sam's fortunes. The unusual herbs he purchased with increasing regularity. Sam, honey, Emma said one afternoon, if you're in some kind of trouble, you can trust me? No trouble, Miss Emma. Just trying new approaches to animal care. Her skeptical expression suggested she wasn't fooled, but she didn't press further. More troubling were the wanted posters appearing in nearby settlements. Morrison's manhunt was expanding systematically, town by town. The sheriff's description of his fugitive wife matched Alicia perfectly. We need to discuss what happens when he gets closer, Sam said during one of their evening talks. I've been thinking about that. Alicia's voice carried a new hardness. Running forever isn't living. Maybe it's time to stop hiding and start fighting. Against a corrupt sheriff with legal authority? That's suicide. Not if we expose his crimes first. She explained her evidence against Morrison. Medical records of his victims, witness testimonies she'd collected. Documentation of land seizures and false arrests. The problem is getting this information to honest authorities without Morrison silencing me first. Sam felt the weight of decision pressing down like storm clouds. Helping Alicia hide was one thing. Actively fighting corruption was another entirely. Their conversation was interrupted by urgent knocking. Emma stood at the door, her face pale with worry. Sam, there's federal marshals in town asking questions. They're showing pictures around, looking for someone. Alicia appeared in the doorway behind Sam, having overheard the conversation. Emma's eyes widened with recognition. Lord have mercy. You're the woman they're hunting. Emma, I can explain, Sam began. No need for explanations. I've seen enough to know you're both good people. Emma stepped inside, closing the door firmly behind her. But we need to talk about what comes next. She'd connected the pieces weeks ago. Sam's miraculous success, the mysterious healing remedies, the woman who never appeared in daylight. Emma possessed the sharp intelligence of someone who'd survived decades on the frontier. Those marshals aren't here by accident, Emma continued. Morrison's closing in. You have maybe days before he arrives personally. Then I run again, Alicia said quietly. Where? Emma challenged. How long before he catches up? How many more towns can you flee through before exhaustion claims you? The truth hung heavy between them. Alicia couldn't run forever. Morrison's resources and authority gave him advantages no fugitive could overcome indefinitely. There might be another way, Emma said slowly. But it's dangerous for all of us. She outlined a plan that made Sam's blood run cold. Instead of hiding from Morrison, they would prepare to confront him publicly, expose his corruption before he could arrest Alicia. Turn the hunter into the hunted. That's madness, Sam protested. He has legal authority and armed deputies. And we have the truth, Emma replied. Sometimes that's enough. The storm was coming whether they faced it or fled from it. The question now was whether they would meet it together or separately. Emma spread the wanted posters across Sam's kitchen table like cards in a losing hand. Morrison's seal marked each one, but the crimes listed made Sam's stomach turn. "Look at the charges," Emma said, pointing to the fine print. "Horse theft, assault on a peace officer, disturbing the peace, all filed in different counties." Alicia studied the papers with growing horror. "These aren't for me. These are for other people." "Exactly." Emma's voice carried grim satisfaction. "I've been asking questions in neighboring towns. Morrison's been busy." The pattern emerged like a picture coming into focus. Morrison would arrive in a settlement, identify freed slaves or their sympathizers, then manufacture charges to justify arrests. Once imprisoned, their property was seized for unpaid fines. The land was then sold at auction to Morrison's associates for fractions of its value. "He's done this in at least 6 towns, Emma continued. "Always the same method, always targeting the most vulnerable families." Sam felt sick. How many people has he destroyed? "Dozens, maybe more." Emma pulled out a leather journal. "I've been documenting everything I can find." Alicia opened her own medical bag and withdrew a similar notebook. Her handwriting filled page after page with patient records, injury descriptions, and witness statements. "I treated some of his victims before I understood the full scope," she said quietly. "Broken bones that didn't come from farming accidents, lash marks on backs, children traumatized by watching their fathers dragged away." The 2 journals painted a horrifying picture. Morrison's corruption reached far beyond simple greed. He was systematically terrorizing communities, using legal authority as a weapon against the defenseless. "This is bigger than just hunting you," Emma told Alicia. "You're not running from an angry husband. You're running from a criminal enterprise." "Which makes it more dangerous for anyone helping me," Alicia replied. "If Morrison discovers you've been gathering evidence, he won't get the chance." Emma's determination surprised Sam. "Because we're going to expose him first." The plan Emma outlined was audacious beyond reason. Instead of waiting for Morrison to arrive and arrest Alicia, they would organize a public hearing, present the evidence to federal authorities, force the truth into daylight before Morrison could silence them. "That's suicide," Sam protested. "Morrison has deputies, legal authority, and political connections. We have notebooks and suspicions." "We have more than that." Emma smiled grimly. "We have the children." She explained her discovery. During the recent flu outbreak, Alicia had secretly treated dozens of Dusty Creek's children through Emma's coordination. Parents knew their little ones had been saved by the mysterious healer Emma brought to their bedsides. Those families owe their children's lives to Alicia. When they learn Morrison wants to arrest her, they'll listen to reason. "And if they don't?" Alicia asked. "Then we run, all 3 of us. Because Morrison won't stop with you." The truth of that statement settled over them like dust after a stampede. Sam had harbored a fugitive. Emma had aided the deception, and both had evidence of Morrison's crimes. They were all targets now. Over the next 2 days, Emma began carefully approaching families whose children Alicia had treated. She revealed the truth gradually, emphasizing the healer's medical knowledge and moral character before mentioning Morrison's pursuit. The responses varied. Some families expressed immediate gratitude and support. Others worried about the consequences of opposing law enforcement. A few demanded more proof before committing to anything. "Mrs. Patterson won't help," Emma reported after visiting the banker's wife. "Says she can't risk her husband's business relationships." "What about the Johnsons?" Sam asked. "They're with us. Said they'll never forget how quickly their boy recovered after the fever broke." The divisions in the community became apparent. Families with secure social positions feared rocking the boat. Those with less to lose showed more willingness to support justice over convenience. Sam found himself in the unexpected role of organizer and strategist. His transformation from timid ranch failure to confident leader surprised everyone, including himself. "You're not the same man who couldn't wrangle cattle 6 weeks ago," Emma observed. "Having something worth fighting for changes everything." His feelings for Alicia had deepened beyond mere partnership. She represented not just salvation for his ranch, but proof that intelligence and courage could triumph over circumstances. Her respect had awakened confidence he'd never known he possessed, but personal feelings took secondary importance to survival. Morrison's network was closing in systematically. Federal marshals continued asking questions in town. Time was running short. The second revelation came from an unexpected source. Dr. Matthews, the town's elderly physician, approached Emma with disturbing news. "I've been corresponding with colleagues in other territories," he said during a private meeting at her inn. "Morrison's activities aren't isolated incidents. There's an entire network of corrupt officials coordinating these land seizures." The scope was staggering. Dozens of lawmen across 3 territories working together to dispossess freed slaves and their allies. Property worth thousands of dollars stolen through manufactured legal proceedings. "Your friend's husband isn't just a local corrupt sheriff," Dr. Matthews continued. "He's part of an organized conspiracy." This changed everything. Exposing Morrison might trigger retaliation from his associates. But it also meant federal authorities would be more interested in investigating once presented with evidence. "We need to contact the territorial governor's office," Emma decided. "This is beyond local jurisdiction." "That takes time we don't have," Alicia pointed out. "Morrison could arrive any day." The dilemma seemed impossible. They needed federal intervention to survive Morrison's arrival, but couldn't contact federal authorities without risking exposure before help arrived. Then Sam had an idea that would either save them all or destroy them completely. Sam's idea was dangerous beyond measure. Instead of waiting for Morrison to arrive unannounced, they would invite him publicly, challenge him to a town hearing where evidence could be presented before witnesses. "You want to voluntarily summon the man who's trying to kill me?" Alicia stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "We send word that Dusty Creek has information about his fugitive wife. Request his presence for an official proceeding. Make it impossible for him to refuse without looking suspicious." Emma grasped the strategy immediately. "Brilliant. If we control the circumstances of the meeting, we control the narrative." "And if we're wrong about community support?" Alicia asked. "Then we die publicly instead of privately," Sam replied grimly. "But at least the truth dies with us." The plan required perfect timing and coordination. Emma would contact the territorial governor's office through telegraph, requesting federal oversight of a corruption investigation. Sam would organize community leaders for the hearing. Alicia would prepare her evidence for presentation. They had 3 days to arrange everything before Morrison could arrive. Sam approached each family personally, explaining the stakes with newfound confidence. His transformation from awkward boy to determined leader convinced even skeptical neighbors. "Morrison's coming whether we're ready or not," he told the gathered ranchers. "Question is whether we meet him as a united community or scattered victims." The response surprised everyone. Families whose children Alicia had saved rallied immediately. Others joined after learning about Morrison's pattern of corruption in neighboring towns. "My cousin in Brazos County lost his farm to false charges," revealed Jake Morrison, the blacksmith. "Sheriff claimed he stole horses that were grazing on his own land." Similar stories emerged throughout the community. Morrison's network had touched more lives than anyone realized. Dr. Burry Matthews provided crucial medical testimony about Alicia's qualifications and character. "This woman has more genuine medical knowledge than half the licensed physicians I've encountered. Her treatments saved lives during the outbreak." Emma coordinated the legal aspects, ensuring proper procedures were followed. Her correspondence with territorial authorities generated interest in federal oversight. "Governor's office is sending a representative," she announced. "Someone will be here to observe the proceedings." The momentum built like a gathering storm. What began as desperate improvisation was becoming organized resistance. Alicia spent her time documenting every detail of Morrison's victims. Her medical records provided irrefutable evidence of systematic abuse. Broken bones that matched interrogation techniques. Scars consistent with torture. Children displaying symptoms of severe trauma. "These aren't isolated incidents of rough justice," she explained to Sam while organizing her testimony. "They're evidence of deliberate cruelty designed to terrorize communities into submission." Her notebook contained names, dates, locations, and detailed medical observations. Combined with Emma's research and community testimonies, They had built a compelling case. But personal doubts plagued Sam during quiet moments. His feelings for Alicia had grown beyond professional partnership or simple attraction. She represented everything he admired: intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. The thought of losing her to Morrison's violence felt unbearable. "Are you sure about this?" he asked her the night before Morrison's expected arrival. "No," she admitted. "But running forever isn't living. Sometimes you have to stand and fight for what's right. Even if it kills us? Especially then. Some things are worth dying for." Her words reminded Sam of his father's teachings about honor and responsibility. Real strength meant protecting others, even at personal cost. The morning of the hearing dawned clear and cold. Citizens gathered in the church, the only building large enough to accommodate everyone. Emma had arranged seating to maximize community participation and witness testimony. Federal observer Janet Harrison arrived on the morning stage, a stern woman with sharp eyes and official credentials. Her presence legitimized the proceedings and provided protection against Morrison's potential violence. "I've reviewed your preliminary evidence," she told the organizers. "If substantiated, these allegations warrant federal investigation." Sam felt nervous energy coursing through him as townspeople filled the pews. Families whose children Alicia had saved sat prominently in front. Ranchers and merchants who'd witnessed Morrison's corruption in other counties provided additional support. Dr. Matthews would present medical testimony about Alicia's qualifications. Emma would document Morrison's pattern of false arrests. Sam would coordinate community witnesses and maintain order. Everything depended on Morrison accepting the public nature of the confrontation. If he arrived with overwhelming force or refused to participate, their plan would collapse. The church bells chimed 10 o'clock. Dust clouds on the horizon announced approaching riders. Morrison was coming. Alicia took her place at the front of the church, no longer hiding in shadows. Her medical bag sat open beside stacks of evidence. Her notebook lay ready for presentation. "Whatever happens," she told Sam quietly, "thank you for giving me the chance to stop running. Thank you for saving everything I thought I'd lost." The sound of horses grew louder. Bootsteps echoed on the church steps. Morrison's voice carried through the doorway as he spoke to his deputies. Sam felt his heart hammering against his ribs. Months ago, he'd been a failing rancher mocked by his own community. Now he stood as their leader, preparing to confront corruption with nothing but truth as his weapon. The church doors opened. Sheriff Jed Morrison stepped inside, his badge gleaming in the morning light streaming through stained glass windows. 3 armed deputies flanked him. His eyes found Alicia immediately, then swept the crowded church with growing confusion and anger. The final confrontation was about to begin. Sheriff Jed Morrison filled the church doorway like a storm cloud, his hand resting on his gun belt. His deputies spread out behind him, their eyes scanning the packed congregation with professional wariness. "Alicia," Morrison's voice carried across the silent church. "Time to come home." Federal observer Janet Harrison rose from the front pew, her credentials gleaming in the morning light. "Sheriff Morrison, I'm Agent Harrison with the Territorial Governor's Office. We're conducting an official hearing regarding allegations of corruption in your jurisdiction." Morrison's confident expression faltered. He hadn't expected federal oversight or organized community resistance. "What allegations?" His voice carried less certainty now. Sam stood, his transformation from timid rancher to community leader complete. Systematic persecution of freed slaves and their sympathizers, land theft through manufactured charges, abuse of legal authority for personal profit. "You're harboring a fugitive," Morrison replied, pointing at Alicia. "That woman is wanted for assault and theft." Dr. Matthews rose with his medical bag. "This woman is a qualified physician who saved dozens of lives during our recent flu outbreak. Her medical knowledge and moral character are beyond question." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the congregation. Parents whose children Alicia had treated nodded their support. Morrison's face darkened. "She's my wife. Her place is with me. Actually, Sheriff," Agent Harrison consulted her official documents, We need to examine the legitimacy of those charges first. This hearing has been authorized by territorial authority to investigate allegations of systematic corruption. Emma stood with her leather journal. We have documented evidence of false arrests and illegal property seizures across 6 counties, all connected to Sheriff Morrison's network. That's preposterous. Then you won't mind answering questions under oath. Morrison looked around the packed church, realizing his tactical disadvantage. He'd expected to find a cowering fugitive and intimidated townspeople. Instead, he faced organized resistance backed by federal authority. Alicia opened her medical notebook. I have detailed records of your victim's injuries, Sheriff. Broken bones consistent with interrogation techniques, scars from whips and chains, children traumatized by watching their fathers dragged away on false charges. Her voice carried across the silent church as she read names and medical observations. The documentation was methodical, professional, and damning. Benjamin Crawford, age 32. Multiple rib fractures and internal bruising consistent with repeated blunt force trauma. Arrested on charges of horse theft. Horses later found grazing on his own property. Morrison's deputies exchanged uncomfortable glances. The clinical precision of Alicia's testimony made denial impossible. Sarah Williams, age 19. Lash marks across her back from public whipping. Crime, allegedly stealing bread for her sick mother. Bread later found to have been purchased legitimately. The congregation listened in horrified silence. Emma's research had uncovered the pattern, but Alicia's medical records provided irrefutable proof of systematic cruelty. Agent Harrison took notes rapidly. These are serious allegations, Sheriff. Do you have responses to these specific charges? I don't have to justify my law enforcement methods to civilians. You do to federal investigators. Sam felt courage flowing through him like electricity. Sheriff Morrison's corruption isn't limited to false arrests. He's been coordinating with associates to steal property from vulnerable families. Jake the blacksmith stood up. My cousin lost his farm in Brazos County. Sheriff Morrison claimed he owed fines for disturbing the peace. Property was sold at auction the same day to Morrison's brother-in-law. Other community members added their testimonies. The scope of Morrison's network became clear through accumulated evidence. One of Morrison's deputies stepped forward. Sheriff, is this true? Morrison's authority was crumbling before his eyes. Deputy Collins, you're out of line. No, sir. I became a lawman to protect people, not terrorize them. Collins removed his badge and set it on a pew. I won't be part of this anymore. The second deputy followed suit. Morrison found himself alone with only one remaining supporter. Agent Harrison stood with official authority. Sheriff Jed Morrison, you're under arrest pending federal investigation of corruption charges. You have no jurisdiction over me. Actually, I do. Territorial governors have authority over county sheriffs when federal crimes are suspected. Morrison's hand moved toward his gun, but froze when he saw the unified community facing him. 50 armed men who'd rallied to protect their families and neighbors. His remaining deputy stepped away, unwilling to fight impossible odds. This isn't over, Morrison snarled at Alicia. Yes, it is, she replied calmly. Your marriage to me is annulled due to your criminal status. Your legal authority is revoked. Your network is exposed. Agent Harrison approached with federal restraints. Morrison submitted without further resistance, his power broken by truth and community solidarity. The church erupted in relieved celebration. Families embraced. Children who'd been saved by Alicia's medical care ran to thank her personally. Sam felt overwhelming relief mixed with profound gratitude. His gamble had succeeded beyond his wildest hopes. 6 months later, Dusty Creek had transformed into a beacon of progressive values. Alicia operated the town's first official medical practice from a building Sam helped construct. Her reputation as a skilled physician drew patients from across the territory. Sam's ranch prospered beyond his father's dreams. His partnership with Alicia had taught him confidence and leadership skills that made him one of the region's most successful cattlemen. Their professional collaboration had evolved into deep personal affection built on mutual respect and shared purpose. They worked side by side each day, healing animals and people alike. The corruption network Morrison had led was dismantled by federal investigators. Dozens of falsely imprisoned individuals were released and their property restored. Emma expanded her inn to accommodate visitors seeking Alicia's medical expertise. Dusty Creek became known throughout Texas as a place where merit mattered more than prejudice. On a warm evening in late spring, Sam and Alicia sat on his porch watching cattle graze in healthy pastures. Their success had been built on truth, courage, and the revolutionary idea that partnership could overcome any obstacle. They'd found in each other not just salvation from their individual struggles, but proof that love based on respect and shared values could transform entire communities.